President Trump stuns the world. But is he trolling? Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, it is the statement heard around the world. I'm sure most of you already know about it. It has exploded. I don't even think that's a fair way to say it. It has erupted all over social media. It is the lead story in every newspaper on the entire planet. President Trump yesterday, meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at a press conference, stunned the room, stunned Congress, stunned the country, and literally stunned the entire world. He now said, with Netanyahu looking on, that the United States should take over the Gaza Strip. Yes, Gaza, that Gaza. President Trump came out and said there may be an intermediate stage where other countries will come in and start the economic rebuilding of Gaza and try to get humanitarian aid in. But he said the ultimate solution, and he is willing to follow through on this, and in some way stake his presidency, is for the United States, forget Greenland, forget the Panama Canal, the Gaza Strip. He wants America to acquire the Gaza Strip, to turn it into an American protectorate and an American territory. And what he also wants to do is there's about 2 million Gazan Palestinians who live on the Gaza Strip. And he says it is time for them to be resettled, transferred, moved either to Egypt, Jordan, or other countries in the Middle East. He says that Gaza now is unrebuildable with the Palestinians having to live there. It is a demolition site, or as he put it, an absolute hellhole. And so, if you want to end the war between the Israelis and the Palestinians, if you want an ultimate solution to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, resettle the Palestinians to countries across the Middle East, maybe even some uninhabited islands in Indonesia, which is a Muslim country. And the United States and other wealthy countries will pay for the resettlement, will build, as he put it, beautiful homes, beautiful communities. They will live in peace, harmony, and tranquility. But most, if not all, will be taken out of the Gaza Strip. It will be run under American direction, American control, ultimately American ownership. And he says that we can turn it into the Riviera of the Middle East, in which people from all over the world, not just Israelis, not just Arabs, but from all over the world, can come onto the Gaza Strip and enjoy the beautiful Mediterranean Sea, the beach. He says there will be hotels, restaurants, cafes. It is a developer's dream. As he put it, the potential in Gaza is unlimited. It could truly become the Riviera, the French Riviera of the Mediterranean. Listen now to Donald Trump. Stun, shock the entire country, the entire press corps, and the entire world. Roll cut 3, Mike.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
So basically, he says there's no way back. He wants to go forward, and the only way forward is not for Israel to take over Gaza or all of Gaza or parts of Gaza or the UN or a Middle East peacekeeping force. It is for ultimately we, Uncle Sam, the United States. Now, Trump said, I'm not going to do this all alone. I want other wealthy countries to join us, the UN, other humanitarian organizations, and we want to do this peacefully, humanely, We want to resettle, as I said, 2 million, or if not 2, 1.7, 1.8 million, most of the Gazan Palestinian population. And we're going to now demand that other countries, nearby countries like Egypt, like Jordan, other countries, you take in the Palestinians, and we will make sure that they will have economic development, they will have wonderful neighborhoods, they'll be living in beautiful housing with beautiful schools, that they will live in prosperity and dignity again. Roll cut 3A, Mike.
We should go to other countries of interest with humanitarian hearts, and there are many of them that want to do this, and build various domains that will ultimately be occupied by the 1.8 million Palestinians living in Gaza, ending the death and destruction and, frankly, bad luck. This could be paid for by neighboring countries of great wealth. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 12. It could be numerous sites, or it could be one large site. But the people will be able to live in comfort and peace, and we'll make sure something really spectacular is done. They're going to have peace. They're not going to be shot at and killed and destroyed like this civilization of wonderful people has had to endure.
So basically what he's saying is America will take care of the Gaza problem, obviously leading a multinational coalition. Okay? That's what he's, at heart, that's what he's saying. Now, let me just say this. If you follow me on X, you know my response to this. I am an America firster. I am an American nationalist. I am an American patriot. There is no national interest in the United States, for God's sake, for us now to occupy and turn Gaza into an American territory or an American protectorate. Now, to be fair to President Trump, he's a developer. He's a visionary. He's a dreamer. I get it. And he's right. Under proper management, yes, the Gaza Strip could definitely become the Riviera of the Middle East. There's no doubt. But is that our job? That's the question. Is that our job? Is that our role? Is that our purpose? Is that our responsibility? Now, to be fair, what I'm hoping, what I'm praying, is that this is classic Trump, whereby he's trolling. And I don't mean this in a critical or negative way. Art of the deal, use a ton of leverage. There he was with Bibi Netanyahu. Bibi, of course, said he loved the idea that this would change history. This is one of the most interesting proposals he's ever heard in his entire life. Well, of course, because Israel now offloads and outsources their Gaza problem to us. So if I'm an Israeli, of course I love this proposal. The Israelis can wipe their hands of the whole thing and say, the Americans will take care of everything. The Americans will rebuild. They'll pick up the tab. They're going to have to resettle the Palestinians. They're going to have to deal with the terrorism and the violence that's going to come from this. So, yeah, of course, if I'm Bibi, I love this. But I'm looking at it from our interest. Now, what I'm hoping, I'm praying, is that this is Trump now, a shot across the bow to Egypt, to Jordan, to Saudi Arabia, to Iran, saying, hey, look, because the Arabs are going nuts. I'm telling you right now, the Middle East they are going insane. I mean, they're going absolutely, you got to see the reaction. They're going apoplectic. America now establish a permanent military presence, a permanent protectorate in the heart of the Middle East. So maybe that's Trump's way of saying, hey, if you don't want us to come in here and take Gaza over, you guys better put maximum pressure on Hamas and say, sign a deal with Israel. Either, you may not like Israel, but you're going to hate us running Gaza 10 times more. So if you guys know what's good for you, if you don't want Big Donald and Big Daddy to come in here and take over Gaza, then you guys better cut a deal and force the Palestinians to a negotiating table. Now, I'm hoping it was a good cop, bad cop routine. There's Trump dropping the hammer. Bibi, oh, I like this, Donald. Very interesting. Could change history. Could be very transformational. So I'm hoping that's what it is. But let's just assume, okay, because we have to assume for the sake of argument, that Trump is dead serious and that he's willing to follow through and he's willing to stake his entire presidency on it. I think it's a big mistake. I'm sorry. I think this is a huge mistake. And you know how much I love the guy. And you know how much I agree with him on so many things. We did not elect him to get us entangled in the squabbles and quarrels and internal affairs of the Middle East. As I said on X, we get involved in Gaza. We take over Gaza. We are going to buy terrorism for 1,000 years. We're going to invite Islamic terrorists, not just to attack our interests in Gaza, should we take it over, but they're going to hit our embassies. They're going to hit our military bases around the world. And my God, you think 9/11 was bad. They're going to come after us in our homeland again and again and again. Donald Trump promised to get us out of the Middle East. This proposal gets us not just back in, but into the heart of the quagmire, with us paying for everything. By the way, Donald Trump said American troops will take care of the debris, destroy the tunnels, help with rebuilding. So we have to clean up Israel's mess. They level Gaza, and it's our job now to clean it up? I don't think so. Let Israel deal with Gaza. It's their problem. 619 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. President Trump now floats the mother of all trial balloons. Really, it has sent shockwaves across the country, across the world, across the Middle East. Let me play the cut one more time, and then I want to take as many calls as possible. Listen now to President Trump. He met with Bibi Netanyahu yesterday behind closed doors. Then they met with the media, and then at a press conference, President Trump said, you know, Gaza now is a pile of rubble. Palestinians are returning to nothing. Everything has been essentially destroyed in this war between Hamas and Israel, which Israel has clearly won, and God bless them for winning that war. But now he says, I see no future for the Palestinians in Gaza. It is time for the United States to step in and take over long-term control of the entire Gaza Strip. Or as many of Trump's supporters are saying, it'll be renamed MAGA Strip. Not Gaza Strip, MAGA Strip. And turn Gaza into an American protectorate and an American territory, and essentially transfer, resettle, whatever term you want to use, most of the Palestinians out of Gaza and have them relocated to 8, 10, 12 different countries. He wants Jordan to chip in, Egypt to chip in, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Indonesia, and says the United States and other wealthy countries will pay for the transfer and will pay for them living in nice homes, nice communities, going to nice schools. In other words, get the Palestinians out of Gaza and turn it into the Riviera of the Middle East with American sovereignty and under American management and American control. So I want to ask all of you, should the United States acquire the Gaza Strip? Do you support this proposal by Trump? And let me add, double-barreled question. Many people think he's playing three-dimensional chess. He's trolling. He's got a larger plan. He's just using this as leverage to force other nations to pony up the economic reconstruction of Gaza and to force Hamas and the Palestinians to the table to sign a negotiated peace. In other words, you don't like Israel in the Middle East, you're going to hate to have the great Satan in the Middle East. So, is Trump serious? Or do you think he's just playing people and putting a lot of pressure behind the scenes with this as the ultimate threat and as the ultimate leverage? 617-266-6868. I want to play the cut one more time. This is Trump with BB standing maybe 3 feet away from him. Roll cut 3. Mike.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site, and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
So, let me ask you, should the United States now acquire the Gaza Strip? A, and B, do you think Trump is serious? Or do you think this is just part of a larger strategy to get other regional powers to force the Palestinians to a negotiated peace deal? 617-266-6868. Let's start with Anthony in Belmont. Thanks for holding, Anthony, and welcome.
And he is playing three-dimensional chess. It was ironic yesterday. The media refused to ask him. They were all in a tiff. They should have said, Mr. President, how does your plan, whatever you're coming across, differ from what the Biden administration offered Hamas as part of the ceasefire plan on January 12th? Anthony Blinken gave a speech and said, we specifically have a plan. It's been handed over to the Trump administration, and we see no reason why they won't follow it. Now, Trump is delivering the plan differently because in the waning moments of the Biden administration, this is a fact, and all policy wants to know this. And if the media is not telling, well, you know why? They're fomenting hate amongst, the people. But a plan was given, and Hamas signed on it. The only thing Hamas didn't want was they were adamant Israel can't be the security force. It never said that the United States can't be a security force or that you can't have troops on the ground. And here's the media saying, well, you know what happens when we have troops on the ground is the anti-American sentiment, which my response was, you had no problem when President Biden sent the Army 7 Infantry Brigade or a unit out of California to be troops on the ground to build them up here. Those are people on the ground doing humanitarian things. Trump is playing chess with them. This plan was already put forward. They just had come up with a ceasefire, and he's just delivering it differently. They tried to bribe Egypt, the Biden administration, on the last days to please take them. And in Biden's plan, Jeff, Blinken said there will be displacement of the people, although it should not be forced. Trump's not forcing the people to go. He said they should go because there is nothing to go back to.
No, you're right. No, Anthony, you're right. It's a proposal. You're right. It's a recommendation. It's a proposal. He's not saying, hey, I'm going to call in the 82nd Airborne. We're going to invade Gaza, annex it, and we're going to force the Palestinians out. So, yeah, he's basically, you're right, Sandy. Trump is basically saying, look, most of the Palestinians are going to want to go because we're going to give them a deal they can't refuse. We're going to relocate them in Muslim countries with Muslim cultures, and we're going to give them nice housing and nice schools and nice neighborhoods and nice communities and good jobs. And in other words, they'll be able to finally have a life. They haven't had a life for 100 years. So he's saying, if you want a better alternative, if you don't want to, instead of living like this constant, protracted battle between the Palestinians and Israel, if you don't want to live in a hellhole and in, pile of rubble every day, then I'm offering you a better way. So you're completely right, Anthony. No, my question, Anthony, I'm just curious. Let's say Trump is serious, just for the sake of argument, and he says, no, I want Gaza. I want to make it like Greenland or the Panama Canal or whatever. I want it to be an American territory, an American protectorate. Would you support that, Anthony?
Absolutely not. And he knows the people on his side who agree with him are against it. And he's going to say, well, this is, and watch, you'll start seeing.
Okay, I got you, Anthony. So basically, I see what you're saying. Now, once he's made this proposal, Jordan is going to move, Egypt is going to move, Saudi Arabia is going to move, Iran is losing its mind. In other words, it's going to start forcing the other powers to take care of the Palestinians and end this thing. 631 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Okay, it's front page, every newspaper. It's leading every cable news network, not just here, but everywhere, all over the planet. I don't care. Asia, Europe, the Middle East, Africa, Latin America. Trump yesterday floated in an idea that maybe it's time for the United States to acquire the Gaza Strip. Long-term control over Gaza, Obviously, other countries would help us in the process of acquiring it. But he said ultimately, if the Palestinians don't want to leave and the other countries in the region don't want to take them, then we're going to have no choice but to pay for the Palestinians to be resettled, to then clear out all the debris, all the explosives, all the tunnels, and resettle the Palestinians. And then we'll invite people from all over the world to come as we build hotel after hotel after hotel, and to turn it into an American territory, the Riviera of the Middle East. Listen now to President Trump saying, look, the only reason why the Palestinians are going back is because they have nowhere else to go. Roll cut 3B, Mike.
The only reason the Palestinians want to go back to Gaza is they have no alternative. It's right now a demolition site. This is just a demolition site. Virtually every building is down. They're living under fallen concrete that's very dangerous and very precarious. They instead can occupy all of a beautiful area with homes and safety, and they can live out their lives in peace and harmony instead of having to go back and do it again.
Now, and in particular, let me just play one more cut, and I want to go right back to the phone lines. Now remember, Jordan neighbors the West Bank. Many Palestinians live in Jordan. Many Palestinians, there's refugee camps in Egypt. And we give both countries a lot of foreign aid. Foreign aid has been obviously in the news. We talked about it yesterday. So Trump is saying, look, we can exert a lot of pressure on Jordan and Egypt. You may not want them, but we're going to force you to take them. And we'll pay for them to live in nice communities and nice development areas, and we'll give them a chance at a real life. Listen now to Trump saying some countries are going to have to up their game and start taking in these Palestinians who clearly now are homeless, stateless, and on their own. Roll cut 5, Mike.
Yeah, I would like to see Jordan. I'd like to see Egypt take some look. The Gaza thing has not worked. It's never worked. And I feel very differently about Gaza than a lot of people. I think they should get a good, fresh, beautiful piece of land, and we get some people to put up the money to build it and make it nice and make it habitable and enjoyable and make it a home. They don't want to leave.
So now here's, I think, where Trump, this may be his blind spot. And I'm not saying this is a criticism of him. I think it's a criticism of the West in general. The assumption among Westerners, it's not just Trump, is that, well, the Palestinians are fundamentally rational. The Palestinians want what we want. A good life, nice standard of living, the rule of law, basic freedoms and liberties. So, yeah, you offer them a much nicer place to live, they'll make a deal. No. The Palestinians are not Western. That's, I think, where the rubber's going to hit the road. The Palestinians see Gaza as their land. They see the West Bank as their land. They see Israel as their land. And they would rather live in absolute dirt poverty, in the rubble. They would literally they'd love to live in abject misery, but at least be on their land and continue this endless war and jihad against the hated Jews. And they do hate the Jews. They really hate the Jews. They pathologically hate the Jews. Then live in prosperity, say in Indonesia, on some beautiful island off the Pacific Ocean, or, in a nice condo in Egypt or in Saudi Arabia or in Qatar or in Jordan. They're not interested in a better life. What they want is to exterminate and annihilate the Jews. They don't want peace. They don't want a better life. And so when that reality rears its ugly head, and I think it's inevitable, what do we do then? Now, let me just say one other thing very quick, and then I want to go to the phone lines. Couple lines are open if you want to jump on. 617-266-6868 is the number. To me, this is how I read the situation. You may agree, you may disagree. Look, we just sent Israel a $1 billion arms package. Israel is now armed to the teeth. Israel now has won the war essentially in Gaza. They've broken the back of Hamas. They have now decapitated Hezbollah. Iran, their arch enemy now, is on the ropes. Why are we getting involved, the United States of America, at this point, when the war is essentially all but won? And now we're going to start getting into the refugee resettlement business? We're going to start, after all of the scandals yesterday of foreign aid and how much of it is being corrupt, it's corrupt, it's waste, it's fraud, it's abuse. Suddenly now we're going to be pumping tens and tens and tens of billions of dollars to resettle Palestinians in places all over the world and all over the Middle East. Many of them don't want to go. Like, I'm sorry, I'm looking at this and I'm like, look, with all due respect, and I'm very pro-Israel, as you know. I backed them in this war with Hamas all the way. But Gaza it's their problem. Well, the West Bank is their problem. And I don't mean this in a contemptuous way. I mean, look, I'm sorry, that's their neighborhood, that's their neck of the woods. Let Israel deal with Gaza and the Palestinians. We've got more than enough on our plate. And so that's why when I saw that yesterday, now again, he may be playing three-dimensional chess. I hope he is. And I hope he's pushing buttons to get regional players and regional countries to step up and do their part and force Hamas out and, try to rebuild Gaza. I hope, okay? I hope. But I'm just telling you, I'm just giving you my honest take on this. We need Gaza like we need a hole in the head. We need to get involved in the Middle East like we need a hole in the head. Iraq consumed and destroyed George W. Bush's presidency. Afghanistan destroyed and consumed Joe Biden's presidency. Syria and Libya and ISIS consumed and in many ways destroyed Barack Obama's presidency. Why are we now getting involved in this quagmire in the Middle East? And, Trump did not campaign on we're going to turn Gaza into the Gaza Strip. He did not campaign on this. So we don't even have Tulsi Gabbard confirmed. She got through the committee yesterday. Great. We don't have RFK confirmed. He got through the committee. Great. But still, we've got key nominees who still haven't even been confirmed. We're in the process, early stages of deporting millions and millions of criminal illegal aliens. We've got a looming trade war with Canada and Mexico. We've got a trade war now with China. We've got an inflation crisis that Trump needs to bring to heel. I mean, I could go on and on and on. We've got a lot of problems here at home. Now, my answer to Bibi is this. Hey, look, you're a good ally of ours. You're a staunch ally of ours. We just sent you another $1 billion. You do what you want with Hamas. Obliterate them. Do what you got to do. And if there's going to be a peacekeeping force, let the UN come in. Let the UN rebuild Gaza. Let the other countries pony up. Let them pay. Let them pick up the tab. Because in the end, I'm telling you, we're going to end up paying, and it's going to be our boys and our girls and our troops that are going to be on the ground. So my advice to President Trump, if you're serious about this, if this is not, 3D chess, which I hope it is, I want you to know the Kuhner man's a no. The Kuhner man is a no. Now, I want to know from you. You agree, disagree? 617-266-6868. I'm just speaking from the heart, my friends. Larry in Leominster. Thanks for holding, Larry, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are we doing in this bipolar weather we're having?
What do you make of this, Larry? Should Gaza become the 51st state?
No. I'm torn. I don't know if he's serious or if he's trolling. When I was listening to you, I was having flashbacks of that super duper luxury whatever package video he sent to the Rocket Man.
Yeah, Kim Jong-un. Yeah.
Say, hey, if you calm down, we can make, Korea look like this, North Korea. We knew he would never go for it, but it was just like an enticement, the carrot instead of the stick. I'm leaning more towards what you're thinking of. This obviously has caused panic in the Middle East because he's got a habit of being serious and doing what he says, and that might put them on notice.
Oh, Larry, I agree. I think, look, I'm hoping and I think that's what he's doing. Look, you got to read the reaction in the Middle East. I mean, Larry, when I say they're losing their minds, they're losing their minds. So they're like now telling the Palestinians, sign anything. Just sign. Just sign. Get the UN, sign. Because we don't want Israel is the little Satan. America is the great Satan, according to these Islamists. Okay, they don't want the great Satan in the Middle East. No way, Jose. 649 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask you. It is the big question. President Trump yesterday has now floated the idea, proposing that the United States take over Gaza. And he says, even if need be, we'll use American troops to clean out the tunnels, clean out the debris, clean out the explosives, and help completely rebuild and reconstruct Gaza as we transfer and resettle nearly 2 million Palestinians to other countries around the region and around the world. Agree, disagree, good idea, bad idea. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, listen now to Trump very quickly. He's asked by a reporter, well, how do you know the Palestinians would take your offer? In other words, that they'd go to Egypt, or they'd go to Jordan, or they'd go to Indonesia, or they'd go wherever. Listen to Trump's response. Roll cut 5A, Mike.
Palestinians say they don't want to leave.
I don't know how they could want to stay. It's a demolition site. It's a pure demolition site. If we could find the right piece of land or numerous pieces of land and build them some really nice places with plenty of money in the area, that's for sure, I think that would be a lot better than going back to Gaza, which has had just decades and decades of death.
Where would those pieces of land be?
Well, they could be in Jordan, and they could be in Egypt, and they could be in other places. You could have more than two, more than one, but you could have more than two. And you'd have people living in a place that could be very beautiful and safe and nice. Gaza's been a disaster.
So, and then they're pressed. Well, they go, well, just one more cut. Then the reporters say, well, okay, but let's say Jordan and Egypt don't want them. I mean, you're assuming, okay, your assumption is, A, that the Palestinians want to leave. And you're saying, well, why wouldn't they want to leave? It's so much better elsewhere. Who wants to live in Gaza? It's a hole. It's a hellhole. But they're saying, well, but also, what if Jordan says no? I mean, the Jordanians don't want any more Palestinians. Egypt doesn't want any more. Frankly, nobody wants the Palestinians, if you want to be brutally honest. Because everywhere they go, they cause trouble. That's just a fact. So they're asking, but what if Jordan and Egypt and other countries say, niet, no deal, no dice? Listen to Trump's response. Roll cut 6, Mike.
If not Jordan, Egypt, what other countries you think might accept Palestinians from Gaza?
Well, I think Jordan and Egypt will. I know they've spoken about it with you, and they say they're not going to accept. I say they will. But I think other countries will accept also. I think that Gaza maybe is a demolition site right now. If you look at Gaza, there's hardly a building standing, and the ones that are going to collapse. You can't live in Gaza right now, and I think we need another location. I think it should be a location that's going to make people happy. You look over the decades, it's all death in Gaza. This has been happening for years. It's all death. If we can get a beautiful area to resettle people permanently in nice homes and where they can be happy and not be shot, not be killed, not be knifed to death like what's happening in Gaza.
So, do you support President Trump, his proposal, his recommendation? And do you think the United States now should take control over Gaza? 617-266-6868. Andy in Milford. Thanks for holding, Andy, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing? Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure, Andy.
Yes. The last thing we need in the United States is for yet another American presidency to be consumed with yet another nation-building adventure in the Middle East. I'm a big fat no on this. This is what I'd like to see, Jeff. I would like to see President Trump go back to what he did in his first administration, and that is isolate Iran economically. When he isolated Iran economically in his first administration, guess what? All the terrorism in Gaza dried up. Hamas and all of them were broke. They couldn't do anything. What I want to see is I want to see President Trump bring that back, only this time put it on steroids and absolutely just strangle Iran in every way, economically. What that'll do is that'll enable the Green movement in Iran to finally get rid of that Islamo-fascist regime over there, which has been the source of all of this. And the average Iranian on the street is sick of how they're forced to have to live with that Islamo-fascist regime. And I would love for an Iranian American somewhere out there in Kuhner country to call in and comment on this as well.
Oh, Andy, you're on fire. I'm telling you, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I could not agree with you more. And we do have, by the way, Iranian Americans who listen to this show. A lot of them, for some reason, I don't know why, it's fine, I'm just noticing. A lot of them are out in California, okay? I don't know if they like the weather or whatever, reminds them of their home country, but a lot of them are out in California. They hate the Ayatollahs. Oh my God, do they hate the Ayatollahs. And they're the ones who keep emailing me saying, Jeff, there is a vibrant pro-democracy green movement. The overwhelming majority of the Iranian people hate this Islamo-Nazi, Islamo-fascist regime. Trump was brilliant when he put so much diplomatic pressure and economic isolation, starving the regime of money, of oil, imposing crippling sanctions. And it starved all of Iran's proxies, all of their terrorist proxies. No, look, Andy, I'm with you. Here's what I thought. Honestly, I thought Trump was going to say this. That it kind of took me back when he said about, we're going to take over Gaza. Because I agree with you. We don't need more nation building. Oh my God, we don't need more nation building. I thought he was going to come out and call the Palestinians bluff. I thought he was going to come out and say, we want the UN to come in, okay, help rebuild, clean up all the debris, but we want elections. Free, fair elections monitored by the UN, monitored by the world. With, election monitors, will the Palestinians re-elect Hamas? If the Palestinians re-elect Hamas, well, there's your answer. I mean, remember, look, I think if you're a rational Palestinian, and there's not many, to be frank, but if you're a rational Palestinian, boy, does October 7th look like a bad idea now, huh? Like, okay, you did kill Jews, and it was a horrific attack, the worst since the Holocaust. But my God, you lost practically everything. Your society has been flattened. You've lost, tens of thousands of people. Hamas has been utterly destroyed and dismantled. Iran is now a second-rate power because they've been so degraded by Israel. You've got Hezbollah now is finished in Lebanon. Trump is right. It's a massive piece of rubble. Really, Gaza now is a massive demolition. It's just rubble. It's a demolition site. It's a hellscape. That's what it is. It's a massive urban hellscape. So let's see now how the Palestinians vote. You have a chance to elect a peace-loving government that will accept the existence of Israel and you guys can create the Riviera on the Middle East. Nobody's stopping you. The UN is going to pour billions of dollars. The UN's going to put in their peacekeeping troops. So you guys can have a nice, functioning, normal, prosperous country and society. Now, to me, that's how you call the Palestinians bluff. Now we're putting ourselves at the front of the line again. We're now, you see, basically, Israel is saying, okay, you guys take it over. We're done. We're washed here. We're done with Gaza. We beat Hamas. We flattened the place. We destroyed our enemy. And, okay, now, you the Americans, you take over everything. You basically clean up the mess. And I'm like, why? We got enough problems of our own. Are you? I mean, my God, no. You clean up the mess. You know? I mean, I'm not saying this in a negative way. You know how much I love Israel. But, I mean, hey, guys, it's your backyard. I don't know what to tell you. We got to deal with Canada. We got to deal with Mexico. We got to deal with China. We got problems up the wazoo. So, guys, I mean, you've won. Now, you know, to the victor go the spoils. So take care of Gaza. You deal with it however you feel best. So that would be my advice to the Israelis. But I would have elections. And I'm telling you, the Palestinians, even after this disaster, Andy, would vote for Hamas again. And then once you see that, you're like, they're not interested in cafes and hotels and restaurants and strip malls and beaches and resorts the way Donald Trump is, because he's a civilized man, the way you are, the way I am, the way we are in the West. No, I'm telling you, they want jihad, 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 jihad. That's what they want. You know, as they say in the Palestinian territories, the only good Jew is a dead Jew. So for them, they would rather have an intifada for 1,000 years than turn Gaza into the Riviera of the Mediterranean. Final word to you, Andy. Am I wrong?
You are 1,000% correct, Jeff. And my message to King Trump is we have a golden opportunity to solve this thing economically and not kinetically, and that's the route we need to take.
Bingo. Just strangle the Iranian regime. I'm so with you, because they're ready now to fall. I'm so with you, Andy. Andy, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. Look, I'm just curious. I mean, I'm just giving you my opinion. You may disagree with me. I'm just curious. Does anybody, I'd like to give the person the floor, take a call. Does anybody like the idea of the United States taking control of Gaza? Because I know on social media, a lot of Trump supporters are saying, hey, we're going to, rename it the Gaza Strip, and they already got hotels, they got Trump Tower, they've already got, Trump resorts already, with AI or whatever, along the Gaza Strip and the Mediterranean Sea. So I'm just curious, does anybody out there say, yeah, we should take it over and rebuild it and resettle the Palestinians? In other words, it's such a protracted problem. The only country that can solve it is us. And now is the time to do it. I think that's the logic and that's the thinking. Do you agree? I'm just curious. 617-266-6868. Arthur in Chestnut Hill. Thanks for holding, Arthur, and welcome.
Thanks, Jeff.
Hi, Arthur.
It would be insane for us to get involved and put our people doing anything in the Middle East in a stable in one spot, because right from the beginning we've got a target on our back. Everywhere when we're out in the open like that, all we're going to do is put a target on the back. The first day that we're there, they're going to be planning how to take hostages and kill our people. We just make it easier for bringing them there. The only people that belong in Gaza are the Israelis. The only place that the Palestinians belong is in Iran, because that's the only one people that take them. The Jordanians already had enough of them, and they're not going to go back to them. And Lebanon's had their fill of them, Syria assassinated. He went down and murdered 5,000 of them. Nobody wants them. They were forced down at the Israelis' throat, and it was in the deal, land for peace. He's talking about giving them a place like Chestnut Hill. Well, that's what the West Bank was, and that hasn't improved. You know, we shouldn't get involved with Gaza, and we gave away Afghanistan, which was another dumb foreign policy move. And we gave away the Panama Canal. These are great blunders in American history, because Afghanistan was a place that we were keeping terrorists from getting a place where they could live, and then we turned it back to the Taliban, and we gave up our big base. But enough about that. One more thing I want. By the way, all Palestinians are Hamas, and we get enough Gazas in our own country, in California, in Hawaii, and all the major cities, thanks to people who destroyed our own cities. So we got enough places we need to rebuild. So we don't need another place. Israel.
Arthur, I promise I won't cut you off. I'll let you finish. But I just want to ask you this. I read this in multiple newspapers late last night, early this morning, that one of the ideas that's being floated behind the scenes, okay, it's just a proposal, it's not carved in stone, but that there are uninhabited islands in Indonesia, which, as you know, is way in the Pacific. Okay, it's really far from the Middle East. Indonesia is a Muslim country, one of the biggest in the entire world. Indonesia has said for the right fee, they would be willing to take in 2 million Palestinians. Just take them out of Gaza. And if the UN and with American leadership or whatever was to build, cities and communities and homes and, resettle them there, Indonesia would potentially be open to that deal. Now, it's just a proposal. It's blueprint. It's in the early stages. But what do you think of that? Do you think that's something that Trump should push? Do you think that's something that should fly? Or do you think we should just stay out of it, let Israel handle this? We've got enough of our own problems.
West can be involved behind the scenes, but I wouldn't be out front with whatever's going on. This is really Israel's problem, and we support Israel. That would be the smart thing. We don't need to be out front with this. I Trump is making a big mistake by being out front. Things should be behind the scenes. Nobody wants the Palestinians, and they're a cancer. There would be a lot more peace in the Middle East if we didn't have those terrorists. And after what they did on October 17th, or October 7th, excuse me, that should have canceled them in the eyes of the world. And all these Palestinians today, they've been all indoctrinated in the schools to teach how to kill. And you know what? That's what Muslims have been doing since the beginning of the histories, killing Christians and Jews. Okay, that's what they're all about. And that's history. That's not me changing history. That's what history is. And there's just one more thing that I've been dying to say for quite a while, if you'll indulge me.
Go ahead, please, Arthur. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I am sick and tired of hearing that the January 6th peaceful people that came up there with flags, walking peacefully, turned around and attacked guards. So you're going to tell me the January 6th people who were unarmed attacked the Capitol guards who invited them in, okay, who had weapons, okay? When is that investigation going to be taken? Now the tampon, that should be number one on the list, because I'm tired of hearing that those patriots and what happened to them afterwards is a black day and a disgrace upon America. For them to turn around and get away with calling those patriots criminals, it disgusts me. Every time I hear it, I want to throw up. And those people should be thrown in jail who did that. And those Capitol guards, on top of it all, they get tons of money for what they did that day. And the only people that were murdered were patriots. And the people who did it got promoted and got money too. I just can't stand to listen to it anymore.
Oh, Arthur, you're dead on, as usual. You're 1,000% correct. And Arthur, I don't want to get too sidetracked here, but I don't know if you saw this. This broke, I think it was either yesterday or the day before. Don't quote me on this. The FBI, it's just, Elon uncovered this. The FBI has 13,000 agents, okay? 13,000. They devoted 5,000 of their agents, 5,000 out of 13,000, to hunt down J6ers. As Elon said, that's 40% of their workforce. That's how obsessed they were with getting every possible J6er under the sun. Now you know why the Mexican drug cartels were running wild. Now you know why criminals were running wild. Now you know why the FBI was never doing its job. 5,000 out of 13,000 FBI agents around the clock trying to hunt down and investigate J6ers. That's why the FBI has to be dismantled. Thoroughly politicized. It's become now a front for the Democratic Party. It's unbelievable. When I saw that, I go, this is impossible. Yep. 40%. 40% of the FBI workforce for 4 years were hunting down J6ers. So now you know why criminals are getting away with bloody murder in this country. Arthur, but I digress. Let that go. Arthur, as always, dynamite call. 617-266-6868. But let me just recalibrate. Trump now really shocks the world with a very, very bold proposal. He now says he wants, or at least he's floating the idea, that the United States should take over Gaza. Long-term control over Gaza. We would have economic control, geopolitical control, ultimately sovereignty, make it an American protectorate, resettle all of the Palestinians that live there, or most of them. And Trump says we would put an American base, we would put American troops, and then create the Riviera of the Middle East, where the whole world could come and enjoy paradise on earth. So, my question to you, should Gaza fall under U.S. control? Do you like the idea? Not like the idea? 617-266-6868. How much time left, Mike? Paul in Medfield. Thanks for holding, Paul, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing this morning? Jeff,
good. How are you, Paul?
What's so wrong with the big Trump casino and plaza right there on the beach in Gaza? It sounds like a good idea. Travel, tourism, be great. But no, Jeff, I think everything that you said, what he should do and what he's doing is actually part of it. I think he is. I think his message is really going out to the Palestinians themselves, saying, you know, why don't you guys stop electing terrorist groups and death cults, and you could be economically successful. You know, you could. There is other things than death and hate.
Paul, I think you're onto something very important. I'm up against a hard break. Paul, can you just hang on? I want you to continue with this. I think Paul is onto something behind Trump's thinking on this. Okay, Paul, hang on. We'll come right back to you. Don't touch that dial. 719 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Trump in a wide-ranging press conference yesterday really stunned the world with a proposal that the United States should take over, literally take control, long-term control, over the Gaza Strip. Good idea, bad idea. Let's go right back to Paul in Medfield. Paul, you were, I thought, really onto something when you were saying, look, Trump was really making a point about the Palestinians, going on about 100 years of a death cult. And look where it's ended up. Look what it's gotten you. A pile of rubble, living in a hellhole and a hellscape. Don't you want something better? It's almost as if he was shedding a light on the disastrous, irrational, hate-filled politics that has infused and really in many ways corrupted the Palestinians for decades. Paul, did I sum up your position accurately?
Yeah, Jeff, I couldn't have said it better myself. Exactly.
Yeah, please pick up where you left off, Paul.
That's all. Yeah, I mean, it's the fact that the Palestinians probably, he's sending a message, even though it's very controversial. and it's extravagant, and it's really not plausible. But he is saying you really can't argue with what he's saying. Hey, why don't you have tourism? You could have there's other things, economic, success. It's not all about, death and hatred. And I think the Palestinians may look at that and say, hey, wait a minute, why can't we do that? Why do we have to be relocated someplace that's really nice? Why can't we just do that amongst ourselves? And maybe we can do it if we stop electing these terrorist groups, Hamas, and just everything about death and hatred. Maybe there's something else to life. So I think that's Trump's message, and I think it's resonating. I think it's more targeted to the Palestinians themselves. I mean, if there are people in Iran that want to get rid of those regimes, they got to be some of those in Palestine. I mean, he's probably saying, and he did the same thing, like Larry referred to earlier with North Korea. Let's put up some hotels, and you got to join the 21st century. So it's basically, it seems like an extravagant and controversial way. He's semi-serious. I mean, if it happened, that'd be okay, but really, Jeff, I mean, why would you want to relocate these Palestinians? Why can't they, be part of this, rebirth, this renaissance of the Gaza?
Well, I think you put your finger on something very, very important, Paul. Really, what Trump is saying by doing this, he's like saying, look, I'm talking to all of you, the press corps. Now, I'm telling you, we can turn Gaza in 10 years, really into like the French Riviera, the Riviera of the Mediterranean. We can have hotels, we can have casinos, we can have resorts, we can have restaurants, cafes. I mean, just literally tourists coming in and out, planes flying in and out. Just, jobs galore, housing for everybody. I mean, this could be really an economic, a boom place. And look what it is. This is what the Palestinians have done to their own to their own people, to themselves, to their own society. So I'm offering you a better alternative. And what he's really saying, see, this is the most damning thing of all. He's saying, remove the Palestinians, and the place gets infinitely better. Now think, and I'm not saying he's doing it on purpose. I'm saying think about the logic of what he's saying, the implications. He's really saying, look at the Palestinians. They can't govern themselves. That's what he's really implicitly saying. He says, look, I love them. I don't want them to be killed. I don't want them to get massacred. He goes, I'm just telling you, you're sitting on gold. Any other people, basically what he's saying is, look, if Israel was running Gaza, it would be the French Riviera. If France was running it, if Italy was running it, never mind America, if other countries in the world were running it, it'd be a tourist mecca. It'd be a tourist mecca. But with the Palestinians running it, look what it is. It's a dump. You can't even live in it anymore. So what he's really saying is the place is better off without the Palestinians. And the problem is it's a catch-22. Because as Arthur rightly said, Jordan doesn't want them. Egypt doesn't want them. Iran doesn't want them. Lebanon doesn't want them. Nobody wants them. Nobody. And you got to ask yourself why. I mean, really, they're the only people on earth. Nobody wants them. You got to ask, if you're Palestinian, you're like, how come nobody wants us? Well, look, wherever you go, there's a lot of Palestinians in Jordan. Look at them. It's the kafia, protesting, burning flags, screaming jihad, 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 on welfare. It's just death, destruction. And look at their education system. It's sick. Their goal is to drink Jewish blood. The only good Jew is a dead Jew. Christians and Jews came descended from monkeys and pigs. This is what you teach your children in school? Like, this is the level of your culture and civilization? You're barbaric. You're primitive. So what Trump is really saying is, take away the Palestinians, and Palestine will flourish. Paul, am I wrong?
Well, partially, Jeff. I have to disagree with a little bit. I don't know if he's so much saying condemning all the Palestinians. I believe that condemning their leadership,
the leadership of the Palestinians,
the radical leadership, the Hamas Stop electing these people because they're. There's probably people that do want peace and prosperity in that region, and they could do it themselves. They don't need us to come in.
Oh, I agree. I agree. On that, I agree. They don't need us. I agree with you. No, Paul, that's why I thought, and again, I don't want to repeat myself, I would call on this, I'd say, okay, hold elections. After everything now that's happened, the disaster of October 7th, the aftermath, the loss of the war, do you still want Hamas as your political leadership? If the Palestinians vote yes, there's your answer. 7:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is from Kyle on Messenger. Jeff, if we take over the Gaza Strip, just think of all the money we'll save on condoms. Touche, Kyle. Touche, my friend. 617-266-6868. Okay, let me just play one more cut, President Trump. And let me ask all of you, when he talks about resettling Palestinians, there's an assumption there, as I mentioned earlier, that the Palestinians want to be resettled. But there's also another assumption. It's as if the Palestinians are ours to resettle. I just want to play the cut and get your reaction. Again, this is Trump in the Oval Office with Bibi Netanyahu. Roll cut 6B, Mike.
I don't think people should be going back to Gaza. I think that Gaza has been very unlucky for them. They've lived like hell. They lived like you're living in hell. Gaza is not a place for people to be living. And the only reason they want to go back, and I believe this strongly, is because they have no alternative. What's the alternative? Go where? There's no other alternative. If they had an alternative, they'd much rather not go back to Gaza and live in a beautiful alternative that's safe.
I don't know. You're a very rational, civilized man, you see, Mr. Trump. So you see the world through the lens of an American, right? Through a Westerner. Yeah, you're right. Most people in the West, yeah, of course they'd want to live in a better place than Gaza. But you're dealing now with the Muslim world. You're dealing with Islamists. You're dealing with a death cult. You're dealing with a tribal, visceral, in some ways, I'm sorry to say it, but it's true, primitive people that have a deep-seated hatred for the Jews and for Israel, in which holy war and jihad is a way of life. Now, again, not all, of course. Paul in Medfield was completely right. I'm sure there are some people who, want to build and want to have restaurants and want to work in a hotel and want to have a productive life. I get it. But just look at their political leadership. And it's not just in Gaza. Look at Fatah in the West Bank. They're hardly any better. Now, after a while, if you keep electing these people, maybe it's because you agree with them. But, my larger question is this. Whatever we may think of the Palestinians, they do live there. And, and I know they want to drive the Jews out. I get that, of course. But, many of them have been living there for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So this idea, I'm uncomfortable with but resettling people off of their native land. If they want to live there, no matter how bad the conditions are, it is their right to live there. Am I wrong? I'm just curious. Am I wrong? 617-266-6868 is the number. Scott in Revere. Thanks for holding, Scott, and welcome.
Jeff Kuhner, I love you in a non-sexual way, my friend.
Thank you, Scott. I love the way you say it with so much emotion and passion. Buddy, what do you think? Gaza, should we take it over or not take it over, Scott?
I think Trump is wrong, and I'm sorry. I have never disagreed with Donald Trump. I'm just being honest. I've never disagreed with him until right this minute. Are you kidding? These people will put on a bomb, strap it on, and blow up whoever they feel like is dissing them at the time. These people don't care. They don't care. They were bombing people still living there, and bombs are falling on their head, on hospitals and schools. These people, they're not used to living a normal life. They're just not used to living a normal life. They're used to living in war all the time. And can you imagine living like that? And you want the Americans to take over? No, thank you. That's a headache we don't. What do you say, Jeff?
Oh, I'm with you, Scott. Look, honestly, I said it in my opening monologue, but I want to repeat it. If we do take over the Gaza Strip, and I hope to God we don't, but if we do take long-term control, it is going to buy us 1,000 years of terrorism. You're right. It's going to be suicide bomber after suicide bomber. The Muslim world is going to go insane. Islamic terrorism this is going to inflame and incite Islamic terrorists everywhere, from Pakistan to Chechnya to the entire Middle East. And, we're going to be sitting ducks in the Middle East. I mean, I understand Trump wants to build it up. I get it. He's a builder. He's a developer. He's an economic titan. I understand that. But there are some peoples and some cultures, they don't care. Look at the Taliban in Afghanistan. They don't care. We built them roads. We built them hospitals. We built them schools. We educated their women. We gave them driving licenses. We gave them jobs. And they don't care. They don't want it. I mean, maybe the women did, but the men, they don't want it. They'd rather live in caves and keep their women enslaved like they're in the 7th century. I mean, I'm sorry. It is what it is. And look, this is, I think, what Europeans, North Americans, Americans especially, but it doesn't matter, Canadians, Australians, much of the world is not like us. That's our blind spot. Because we think, come on, look, I mean, who doesn't want to live like us, right? I mean, we live so much better than most people around the world. But many people in the world don't see the world the way we do. And I think Trump is going to get a rude awakening. And honestly, Scott, and I want to get your final take on this, I thought we learned our lesson with Iraq, the disasters of nation building. And then we learned it again in Afghanistan, the disasters of nation building. We're going to do nation building again, this time in the heart of the Middle East, with potentially our troops, our soldiers, Americans fully exposed. Whatever Gaza can offer us, it's not worth it. It's not like, we're Iceland and we really need a beautiful beach resort. No, really, seriously. We've got Hawaii. We've got South Carolina, Florida, the Virgin Islands. We've got great spots here in the United States. The best beaches, the best resorts, the best hotels. If Israel wants to build it up into the Riviera of the Middle East, God bless them. But that's for them. That's not for us. Scott, what say you?
Jeff, you knocked it out of the park as usual. Listen, before this war started, Netanyahu said, go north. Go north. Every civilian, go north. Well, guess what? They started going north, and then the Taliban turned them around. So that tells you that the people of Gaza have no control over what they're doing over there, and it doesn't matter who's running them. The only people, the Muslim people, they're out to stop Catholicism in the Jewish state. They hate us, period. And there ain't nothing that's going to stop that. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Scott. Look, let the East be East and let the West be West. That's always been my philosophy. Protect the West. Don't allow us to be overwhelmed with, illegal immigration and the Islamization of Europe, and keep radical Islamists out. To me, they come from a radically different civilization and culture than we do. But once you start getting involved in their internal affairs, we're at their mercy. And to me, I've had enough. No more nation building in the Middle East. I'm done. Agree, disagree. 617-266-6868. And by the way, it's funny you should say that, Scott. Last night when I read this, I'm like, oh my God. I think this is the first time I've ever disagreed with the guy. Like, I agree with him like 99.9999999% of the time. I go, it's like a miracle. It's the first time I've ever disagreed with him. Now, again, I hope he's trolling. I hope he's playing three-dimensional chess. But, if you're asking me for my honest take, I don't want the Gaza Strip. I don't think we need it. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. John in Westford. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, John.
No, I like what Trump's doing. I know it's going to sound crazy, but I think it's 3D chess. The problem is, it is with the Gazans. Yes, they teach their kids at birth to hate Israel and kill all Jews and infidels. But I think the real problem is the rest of the Middle East. I think it's the other Muslim countries. I think it's Jordan, Egypt. They need a boogeyman, and they're all just running this proxy war through Hamas, through the Gaza Strip. And Trump is calling them out. Trump is saying, hey, Jordan, Egypt, step up. If you don't, we're going to force them on you by sanctions, cutting off your money.
John, Mike, you're killing me with these breaks, Mike. I'm being honest with you. John, please hang on. I want you to finish your thought. So we're going to come back with John. Don't touch that dial. 750 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. Okay, should we take control of the Gaza Strip? Trump says he's interested. Netanyahu said it's a great idea. It would change history. Do you support it? Do you not support it? Let's go back to John in Westford. John, you are making the point that in many ways, this is a very smart proposal by Trump. What he's really trying to do is he's forcing Jordan, forcing Egypt, telling them, look, we can withdraw foreign aid, we can cut off money, we can cut off investment. Either you guys start stepping up to the plate and start dealing with the Palestinian issue, or we're going to make it hard for all of you. And if you don't take care of it, we will. In other words, art of the deal, maximum pressure, maximum leverage. John, did I sum up your position accurately?
Yeah, it is the art of the deal. It's the big ask. The Middle East wants a boogeyman, and the Palestinians are just easy picking because, they teach their kids, like I said earlier, at birth to hate Israel and kill the Jews. But Gaza was controlled by Egypt for how many years? And Jordan had control of the West Bank. And then Israel said, keep it. And they're like, no, we don't want it. And then all the money that flows into Gaza, I think they said it's $100,000 per family between the UN and other charities. And where does it go? Digging tunnels and stuff. Look at the election. Israel was fine with Hamas because at least it wasn't the PLO. It was just a rebrand. So I think this will force them to allow. I think ideally it should be put into control, not the U.S., but maybe Jordan for 10 or 15 years, and just have the UN. Not that I like the UN. Kind of watch over it, because the area, Trump is right. It's beachfront, offshore oil. It's prime real estate. There's no reason for what's going on. But
John, you're dead on. No, look, John, you're absolutely dead on. Look, if Israel really completely controlled Gaza and the West Bank, okay, completely, it would be booming. If we, say the United States, if we controlled Gaza and the West Bank, you're right. Oh my God. Really, it really would be. Trump is right. It would be like the French Riviera. It would be stunning. It'd be one of the biggest tourist meccas and destinations in the entire world. There's no question. John, I'm just curious, because I know you're saying, look, Trump is, there's a strategy to this. He's a chess player. It's the art of the deal. He knows what he's doing. He knows what buttons he's pushing. Just as a philosophical matter, I'm just curious. If Trump said, nah, to hell with it, we're going to take it. I want Greenland. I want the Panama Canal. And now I want the Gaza Strip. Would you support the United States taking control of Gaza? I'm just curious.
No, it has to be a Muslim country. I think the UAE would be great. Jordan would be great. Just for 10, 15 years, get them financially stable, and then just make sure Hamas and whatnot never comes into power again. And I think once the money starts flowing, it won't. I don't think that people would allow it. They don't want to go back to the rubble of.
You know, it's funny, John, because Sandy and I were talking off air about what the poll question should be. And I said, well, why don't we just ask the straight question, right? Should the United States take control of Gaza? And she said, it's going to be 100-0. I'm like, really? And I got to tell you, John, we're like, what is it now? Almost 8 o'clock. So far, I haven't gotten one email, one message. I'm just observing. It's interesting. Not one person has said, yeah, Jeff, let's take it. So it's interesting. John, thank you very much for that call. So John is basically saying, look, let Jordan let Jordan run it. Let the United Arab Emirates, let Kuwait, let a wealthier Muslim country run it for 10, 15 years, stabilize, start to rebuild the place, maybe bring in the UN eventually as peacekeepers. And Trump is trying to push them in that direction. That this is their strategy and there's art of the deal involved. So he's not serious. He's not dead serious about, gobbling up Gaza. He's just trying to get people to move who don't want to move. Interesting. So that leads us to the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Now that President Trump has called for the United States to take control, to take over Gaza, do you think he's really only doing this to force Jordan and Egypt to step up to the plate? In other words, A, he's trolling to get a result, or B, he's serious. So, A, is he just trying to force Jordan, Egypt, and these other countries to step up to the plate and finally take care of the Palestinian issue? A, yes. Or B, no, he's serious. He wants the Gaza Strip. I'm just curious. I'd love to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. You can also vote via X, and I was active last night as well. My handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, Kuhn as in national ER. Okay, very quickly, brilliant, absolutely brilliant message from Charles on Messenger. I think he makes a really good point. Jeff, the United States is too big as it is. We can't even control California or Hawaiian judges. How can we control something as far away as Palestine? The framers never had 50 states coast to coast in mind. If anyone says they did or that we can do it, just ask, where does it stop? Little states all over the world? We have territories that hate us right now, and we can't control them. Don't believe me? Spend a day in Springfield. It's one of the worst cities in the state of Massachusetts. It's all for Kamala Harris, and it's basically all Puerto Rican. We can't expand any further. Need more proof of what happens? Ask yourself. Great Britain tried this. Rome, the Roman Empire, tried this. How did that work out for them? Well, that's the other thing. That was my initial reaction as well, Charles, among, other concerns. This is becoming imperial overstretch. I mean, it's, we're talking Greenland, we're talking Panama Canal, which I support, because I believe in the Monroe Doctrine. I do believe we are the dominant power in the Western Hemisphere, and we have the right to control our destiny here in the Western Hemisphere. But now we're talking about a small strip of territory halfway around the world in the Middle East, where we've gotten burned again and again and again. I'm done, man. We've got Hawaii, we've got Guam, we've got Puerto Rico, we've got Guantanamo Bay in the Caribbean on Cuba, we've got the Virgin Islands. We're a very big country with a very big reach. There's only so much we can swallow and absorb. And I think Charles is right. We're ultimately supposed to be a republic, not an empire. And to me, this is the road down an empire. And if you look at the great empires, none of them lasted. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Bob in Marblehead. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Yeah, Jeff, a couple of points. One is I love what Trump's doing, and basically he's firing for effect, as we would say in naval gunfire support, and all the artillery guys out there will know what I'm talking about. You shake up the opposition, shake them up, and obviously the devil is in the details on how the project gets set up. And it's just a colossal project management deal. And the idea is to shake up that part of the world, and that's what he's done. He's fired for effect, and now you got to get to the details to make it work. I mean, my post-naval career, I did project management, commercial and residential, and I know what it's like, and it takes time, and it takes coordination. And we don't have to take it over, but it's how the project gets set up. That's how it's going to work. And, you know, you've got to be able to sell those folks, the Middle East folks, and that's a beautiful part of the world, too. I sailed past that part of the East Med, we called it. The water's very calm. The beaches are beautiful, and it is ripe for development. I mean, Beirut was the Paris of the Middle East
Mediterranean.
for a long time.
No, you're right. No, you're right, Bob.
Yeah,
Bob. Just to reinforce what you're saying, and I don't want to get too off track, but just to show you, I think how right you are. I remember, my late dad. Now he passed away, as you know, in late December, but he used to travel all over the world for his company. He was a very well-traveled man. And one of the places he eventually visited for his company was Israel. And I'll never forget, he called me up. He would always call me up when he was on the road. And so at that time I was living in Washington, D.C. I was at the Washington Times. And so he called me up and he said, "Hey, Jeff, I'm in Israel now." I'm like, "Oh, how is it, Dad?" Now, honestly, maybe just because of everything I've read and what I've seen on TV, I thought it would be a very much, it's a very Middle Eastern country. And he said to me, "Oh, Jeff, it's gorgeous." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I'm telling you, I feel like I'm in Greece or Italy." I go, "Come on." He goes, "No, I'm telling you, I'm in Greece or Italy." He said, "Jeff, the women here dress so stylishly, the fashion, the restaurants, the cafes. I could be in Greece. I could be in Italy." He goes, "I'm telling you, the men are handsome, the women are attractive." He goes, "I really feel like you're in Europe. You're in the outpost of Europe." He goes, "And the beaches, I've been to the beaches." He goes, "I never thought Israel had such gorgeous beaches." And I remember thinking, I don't know, I just, I think of soldiers, I think of bombings, I think of, because, I'm a newsman, right? So that's when I think of Israel. And, and holy places and stuff like that. And I'm like, "Really?" He goes, "I'm telling you, it's like you're in it's like you're in the Greek islands or in Sicily or in Calabria," where he goes, "I've never seen such a beautiful place in my life." And he says, "You got to come. You got to visit." So anyway, just to reinforce what you're saying, my dad went to that part of the world and he said, it is stunningly gorgeous. And he came back saying, because then he went to Jordan, he went to other countries. And he said, the moment you leave Israel, it's like night and day. The mentality, the worldview, you're really leaving the West. You're leaving Europe. Israel, he said, look, geographically, it's the Middle East. Culturally, it's Southern Europe. It's not Northern Europe, it's Southern Europe. Okay, he goes, that's what it really is. And he said, the moment you leave Israel, it's a different world. And just what you're saying, he goes, I look around and the Israelis develop everything. And I go to all these places, and they're beautiful places. Jordan, Egypt, the pyramids and everything. He goes, they've got such beautiful land. They've got such history, such tradition, such culture that goes back thousands of years. The place should be an absolute palace. It should be a tourist mecca. He goes, they don't want to develop it. He goes, it's the strangest mentality I've ever seen. They're just not Western. But I completely agree with you. You know, what Trump essentially did was this. He goes, look, the way we've been doing it for the last 100 years, it no work. It's not working. We've hit a dead end. It's just not, there's no solution. There's no way out. So you got to change. And the possibility here is endless. But you got to want to change. Now, if you want to change, I'm going to help all of you change, and we're going to make this thing work in the Middle East. But you got to want economic development. You got to want to prosper. You know, you have to want to have a certain lifestyle. And now the ball now is in Egypt's court. It's in Jordan's court. Frankly, it's in the Palestinians' court. And we'll see what they say and do. Bob, I'm just curious. Do you think there are enough Palestinians that really want to turn Gaza into the Riviera of the Middle East?
Hey, I think they want a better life. Otherwise they would be insane. They have to want a better life for their kids. And as I said, it's a beautiful part of the world. I can't imagine them not wanting it, but it's a sales kind of a job as well. You've got to show them the possibilities, and Trump can do that. And
well, he did it yesterday, that's for sure.
Yeah,
he really showed them the possibility. He showed them an alternative, no question. No, in a way, as Larry mentioned earlier, remember Rocket Man? You know, they set up that whole video show for him, and they look at the beaches you could have in North Korea, look at the hotels, look at the casinos. He had a thing for blondes, right? Rocket Man's got a thing for blondes. So they even had like blonde women, in bikinis running up and down. Like, you see? Huh? You want this? You want this? Huh? You want this? Ultimately, he's so primitive, he didn't take it. But, Trump tried. And I think he's trying now. I agree with you. Bob, thank you very, very much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Bill in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Bill, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff. How are you?
Good. How are you, Bill?
Pretty good. Hey, I have a completely different take from everybody else on all.
Go ahead. I like that. I like different takes. Go ahead, Bill.
The thing is what is no one talking about today?
Well, Elon. No one's talking about, Elon Musk and USAID.
Exactly. But with Trump hates wars. We all know that. But what does he hate more than wars? Terrorists. You know that because he just killed some last weekend.
That's right, ISIS in Somalia.
And now Bibi has even in the press briefing yesterday said that he is going to finish this thing. Well, what happens now? He just traded 1,000 Hamas fighters for the return of the hostages. He just gave them a military division worth of personnel to continue their fight. Now, Trump knows by distracting everybody that these people are going to go right back and take up arms against Israel. So he just replenished their entire fighting force. So what are they going to do? They're going to break the ceasefire. And when they do that, now Bibi can go in and kill them all. We just rearmed him so he could. He said he's not going to stop till they're eliminated. He can't take these people as a civilized nation and kill them while he has them in prison. But if he releases them and they go out and start fighting again, now he can kill all of them. And that's how I think this is going to go down.
Bill, I hope you're right. It's a very interesting angle. I didn't look at it that way. And I hope you're right. Because to me, the source of aggression, the source of all the problems is Hamas. Iran, obviously, is the big monster. They're the octopus with their tentacles everywhere. But if you're looking at this Israeli-Palestinian issue, it's all Hamas. Who wants Israel annihilated? Hamas. Who attacked Israel on October 7th? Hamas. Who wants a holy war for 1,000 years against Israel? Hamas. So, and Bibi has vowed to wipe them off the face of the earth. And so basically, if Hamas is destroyed, utterly obliterated, then he can turn to the Palestinians and say, you want peace? In other words, I've taken care of Hamas. So do you want to rebuild Gaza? Yes or no? And if the Palestinians say no, we have our answer. Bill, I'm just curious, because this is now, it's also generating so much. Obviously, whether we should control it or not, that's what everybody's debating. But the other thing is that Trump has broken and sense a taboo. In Israel, outside of a few parties on the so-called far right, you never talk about resettling Palestinians. It's a big no-no. The Israeli media never talks about it. Bibi, for example, never talks about it. Most Israeli politicians never talk about it because they don't want to be accused of ethnic cleansing and genocide, okay, to resettle and transfer the Palestinians. So I'm just curious, Bill, the fact now that Trump has broken that taboo and saying there's about 2 million, give or take, in Gaza, I think all of them should go to another country or countries. Or maybe some can stay, but 1.7, 1.8 million, basically most of them need to go. Was Trump right to broach that taboo? I'm just curious. What say you?
No, I think that's all just, 3D chess. He knows those people, that's what they consider their holy land. They're not leaving that for any reason. They would rather die in the rubble. And as far as the rubble goes, then it's just like World War II and the Germans. We blew up all their buildings, and all they did was use it for cover to continue the fight.
Bill, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. So let me ask all of you. Here, let's throw this log on the fire. What the hell? Is calling for the transfer, the resettlement of, let's say, almost 2 million Palestinians into other countries, in the Middle East, around the world, is that a form of ethnic cleansing? Is it a form of genocide? The reason why I ask is that's what the hot story is in the Middle East, in Europe. That's the accusation that they're making against both Trump and Bibi. So, is Trump just being pragmatic, or did Trump cross a line? I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, President Trump shocks the world, and I mean shocks the world. Holy mackerel. Talk about dropping the mother of all hammers. He says he's open to the United States taking over the Gaza Strip. Like, no like, your calls next. 8:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, listen now to Trump saying someone has to break this constant cycle of terrorism, violence, war, poverty, misery. He goes, it's got to end. For God's sake, it's got to end. We've got to break the cycle of history. Roll cut 7A, Mike.
They've tried the other, and they've tried it for decades and decades and decades. It's not going to work. It didn't work. It will never work. And you have to learn from history. History is, just can't let it keep repeating itself. We have an opportunity to do something that could be phenomenal. And I don't want to be cute. I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so bad. This could be so magnificent.
Okay, let me ask you, my friends. Trump says, especially under American protection, American leadership, American control, we take over the Gaza Strip. You, me, all of us, in about 10 years, will be booking annual vacations to Gaza. Good idea, bad idea, 617-266-6868. And let me throw this mini log on the fire. Does this at all smack of American imperialism? I mean, Greenland, we're going to buy it, right? Or have some kind of a voluntary arrangement. Panama, we're working on a deal with the Panamanians. But if we actually go in and take over Gaza, are we now starting to go down the road of the Roman Empire and the British Empire? Is this now a form of the American Empire? I'm just curious. 617-266-6868. Jerry on Cape Cod. Thanks for holding, Jerry, and welcome.
Jeff, good morning.
Hi,
I'm really sorry. My heartfelt condolences on the passing of your dad.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jerry.
Jeff, I think President Trump is playing a game here. But the thing, I don't know if he gets it. The Egyptians, after they already tried to overthrow the Egyptian government, and after they already killed the president of Jordan, the Prince of Jordan, they don't want to play with the Palestinians anymore. None of these Islamic countries want anything to do with them. And, everybody keeps saying, the ethnic Palestinians. What are the ethnic Palestinians, Jeff? They're a homogenization. They're outcasts from the Saudi Arabians, from Jordan, from Egypt. They're outcasts from all over the Islamic world, basically, in the Middle East. But, Jeff, I think this is the road to disaster if we get anywhere near involved in this. Even letting American companies go in there and rebuild, it's a huge mistake. It's just going to entice them to want to attack us more. And it's not just going to be Palestinians, Jeff. It's going to be Indonesians. It's going to be Pakistanis. It's going to be Afghanis. It's going to be people from all over the Islamic world that are going to turn on us like a rabid dog.
Oh, Jerry, you took the words right out of my mouth. I couldn't have said it better myself. And look, I'm not justifying, obviously, the Islamic world's response. Okay, I'm just, as you're saying, I'm just making an objective statement of fact. Look how the Islamic world has reacted to the creation of the Jewish state of Israel. Since 1948, they've lost their minds. It's, how long is this jihad going to go on? What are we at, 75, 80 years now? They won't stop. Now, that's just in their words, that's just the little Satan. Can you imagine if the United States sets up a territory, a protectorate, right next to Israel, the great Satan? And essentially, dispossesses the Palestinians or resettle them or transfer them or however you want to call it. Oh my, this is going to be 1,000-year jihad. You're right. The Pakistanis, the Indonesians, the Chechens. Oh my, it'll be a recruiting bonanza for the mother of all holy wars. If they can't accept Israel, what do you think what's going to be their reaction to us taking a slice of the Middle East? Comrade, am I wrong?
I couldn't have said it better myself, and I believe that you will see our military attacked all over the world. You will see suicide bombings in roadside IEDs here in the United States. They'll blow up a number of things, malls. They'll just go on like you said, on a worldwide jihad here in the United States, too.
Jerry, as always, thank you very, very much for that call. So that's why I know, Trump, look, Trump is a tough guy. He's a statesman. He's a visionary. He's a strategist. He's a three-dimensional thinker. I get all of that. Look, I don't want to, you know what? I'll even ask Dr. Grace when she comes on at 9:00. Grace's fear last night, we're talking about this in the living room. She said, Jeff, she doesn't like the idea, but she said, I'm afraid somebody may assassinate him over this. Like, what do you mean? She goes, you got a lot of Islamist crazies out there. Like, I get Trump is thinking at 35,000 feet, and he's trying to pressure the Egyptians and the Jordanians and the Saudis and the Qataris, and, I understand that. But you got to think about these crazies on the street. And she's like, I'm really worried. I'm telling you, just some guy is just going to go off and say, I'm going to blow myself up and take him with me. In other words, she wants Trump, and I don't want to speak for her, just be a little more careful what you say. Because, you're upsetting the apple cart everywhere. In Washington, with Canada, with Mexico, with China. She feels like, her argument is, you're fighting maybe on too many fronts now. But you need to sort of consolidate focus because the Islamists are going to go berserk. 8:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just very quick. What has been the number one line of attack against Trump, really, since he went down the escalator in 2015? Okay, basically, let's not quibble, 10 years now. Okay, give or take a few months. For 10 years, the media, liberals, Democrats, rhinos, never-Trumpers, Hitler, 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 Nazi, Nazi, Nazi. And what was the central act of Hitler and the central act of the Nazi regime? The Holocaust. And rounding up 6 million Jews like cattle into the concentration camps, the death camps, and into the gas ovens. So, I want you to listen now. This was yesterday at the press conference, at the presser. Listen to Netanyahu, the prime minister of the only Jewish state in the world, and a proud Israeli himself. Listen to what he had to say about Donald Trump. Roll cut 8, Mike.
I've said this before. I'll say it again. You are the greatest friend Israel has ever had in the White House. And that's why the people of Israel have such enormous respect for you. In your first term, you recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. You moved the American embassy there. You recognized Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. You withdrew from the disastrous Iran nuclear deal. I remember we spoke about it. You said, this is the worst deal I've ever seen. I'm elected. I'm walking out of it. That's exactly what you did. And I think it speaks loudly for just common sense, just looking at things and seeing them as they are.
Now, just stand back for a second. You think Hitler? You think a Nazi? You think a Jew-hating fascist? Just to show you how insane, how unhinged the opposition and the attacks on Trump have been. You think that Hitler would be the greatest friend Israel ever had? If, let's say, Hitler was the president of the United States, just go with the analogy here for a second. You think he would recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital? You think he'd recognize Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights? You think he'd move our embassy to Jerusalem? You think he would have pulled out of the Iran deal? And then there's more. Listen now to Bibi saying you've been in office for 2 weeks and you've undone 4 years of Bidenism. In 2 weeks, you've been a better friend to Israel than Biden was in 4 years. Roll cut 8A, Mike.
Now, in the first days of your second term, you picked up right where you left off. Your leadership helped bring our hostages home, among them American citizens. You freed up munitions that have been withheld from Israel. They had been withheld from Israel in the midst of a 7-front war for our existence. And you just freed it. You ended unjust sanctions against law-abiding Israeli citizens. You boldly confronted the scourge of anti-Semitism. You stopped funding, as you just said, international organizations like UNRWA that support and fund terrorists. And today, you renewed the maximum pressure campaign against Iran. Ladies and gentlemen, all this in just 2 weeks. Can we imagine where we'll be in 4 years?
Game, set, match. This presser yesterday completely destroyed the entire media narrative against Trump. The last thing Trump is Hitler. The last thing he is a Nazi. The last thing he is an anti-Semite. And seriously, if you believe that, you're insane. Don't take my word for it. Ask Bibi and ask the people of Israel. Caroline in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Caroline, and welcome.
Hi, thanks, Jeff, for taking my call. Just wanted to mention something. Thank you. Something that's, maybe this is something that's going on and maybe not, but I think that this probably has at least an idea in President Trump's head regarding this. So the Suez Canal, you had mentioned a while ago that China is buying all the ports. and they're building something called the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI.
Yes.
And it's connecting China to pretty much all of Europe, Africa. You know, it's a big trade route. And so they are setting up ports in the Suez Canal, which is, I believe, owned by Egypt. And there was a proposed idea called the Ben Gurion Canal. And it would go through Gaza. It would go through from Ashkelon through Israel. I am not an expert here, but I'm doing the best I can. Port of Iliad. It would basically be an alternative to the Suez Canal. And if that is built, that is an enormous amount of money for Israel. It's also another port Israel's friends to the Western countries. So that is, maybe this is what's in the back of President Trump's mind while he's saying, yes, I would think that his son, Jared Kushner, he's a real estate developer. There is talk that he made a speech in Harvard, I think it was last year, that, to displace, to move the Palestinians. That's just what he said. And so that's a huge, I think this is something that might be happening. It goes right through where they're going to be removing these people. And whether that's right or wrong, personally, I think that it has been a terrible thing for those people. But that's just me. I don't like people suffering. But this is what's happening right now. China is taking over the world in terms of
you nailed it.
These ports,
they're taking
and
over
trade.
the world. Exactly. Through trade, through their economic ties, through bribery, through corruption, through infiltration. You nailed it. And the Belt Road Initiative, BRI, as you rightly call it, that's the tip of their spear. And it's in Africa, it's in Europe, it's in the Middle East, it's all across Asia, and it's here in the Western Hemisphere. And that's why Trump realized, they're strangling the Panama Canal. And they want a strategic chokehold over the Panama Canal to increase the Belt and Road Initiative, not just in Panama, but all across Latin America, South America, Central America, and eventually us. So that's what the Chinese are playing the long game. And you touched on something earlier, Caroline. China now, to its credit, has brought Russia into its orbit. That's why, to me, for many reasons, the Ukraine war was a disaster. And moving NATO to the doorstep of Russia, huge disaster, because it drove Russia completely into the arms of China. But let me tell you something else that's happened. Iran now has been drawn into the arms of China. And so what Trump is trying to do is, the expression, cut off my right arm, cut off my left arm. He's trying to cut off China's right arm and China's left arm. So really, what this Gaza move is, yes, it's about the Palestinian issue. Yes, it's about peace in the Middle East. Yes, it's about giving these people potentially a better life. No question. But it's ultimately aimed at Iran. And what Trump is telling the mullahs, loudly and clearly, is, if Egypt and Jordan and the other your Middle East powers, if you guys don't solve this Palestinian issue, and if you, the mullahs in Tehran, keep funding and subsidizing and arming Hamas and Hezbollah, and you keep running this proxy war against Israel, we're just going to come in and take it all. We're going to break you, man. And so it's now a shot across the bow. He's pushing back Iranian influence. And he's telling other countries in the area, I don't want Iran in Gaza. I want Egypt in Gaza. I want Saudi Arabia in Gaza. In other words, the Sunni powers. Not Shia Islam, Sunni Islam. So I want these other countries involved in Gaza because I want to push Iranian influence out of the Middle East. I weaken Iran, I weaken China. I end the war between Russia and Ukraine, I can maybe start to peel away Russia from China. That's his entire strategy. And Caroline, just to give an exclamation point, hold on, where is it? I'm going to try to find it. Mike, the one where, do we have the cut? Okay, we don't have time. The cut where we're going to play it coming back in, where he tells the mullahs, if you assassinate me, it was an incredible moment yesterday. He goes, I want you to know I've left instructions that should I be assassinated or killed by you or agents of yours, we will obliterate and wipe Iran off the face of the earth. There'll be nothing left of Iran. So he's putting the Ayatollahs on notice. Your days are coming to an end. 50 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, very quickly. So this is Trump. He's in the Oval Office, and he's asked by Fox's Peter Doocy about Iran and their proxies who are threatening to assassinate Trump in retaliation. Remember in his first term when he took out one of Iran's top generals, Soleimani. And there's been report after report that Iran has sent agents into the United States in an attempt to kill and murder Trump. Well, as I said on X last night, Trump, in front of the whole world, just broke the mullahs. He took them and snapped their back right in front of everybody. Roll cut 2, Mike.
And why is Iran happy to sign it if it's Iran and their proxies who have threatened to retaliate against you and your team by killing you guys for taking out Soleimani?
Well, they haven't done that, and that would be a terrible thing for them to do, not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That would be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left. And they shouldn't be able to do it. And Biden should have said that, but he never did. I don't know why, lack of intelligence, perhaps. But he never said it. If that happens to a leader, or close to a leader, frankly, if you had other people involved also, you would call for total obliteration of a state that did it. That would include Iran. So I'm signing this, and it's a very powerful document, but hopefully we're not going to have to use it. Mr. President.
So basically now he's let the world know, and the Iranian regime, the Islamo-Nazis in Tehran, the Ayatollahs, okay, you think you can assassinate me or members of my cabinet or members of my team or for retaliation against taking out Soleimani? Well, I want you to know, if you even come close, forget assassinating me. If you just come close to assassinating me, I've signed a document. I've left specific instructions. We will wipe you off the face of the earth. Period. Full stop. Now, this is not just deterrence. This is Trump now putting Iran back in a box, containing Iran, marginalizing Iran, and telling them their days of running wild, their days of rampaging in the Middle East are over. There's a new sheriff in town, and he's going to stand up to America's enemies. And if that means telling them there's going to be a nuclear war, that there are some lines you just don't cross. And if you think one of them is a targeted assassination of the President of the United States, I want you to know there will be no country left. So understand fully well what you're taking us down the road. What road you're now taking us down. Now, I'm telling you that this message wasn't just received in the corridors of power in Tehran. It was received on the Iranian street. And this is now going to give a massive boost of support to the green pro-democracy movement, because they're going to say these idiots, these mullahs, these theocrats and fascists, these Islamic fascists, they're going to get us all blown up. If these idiots think they're going to assassinate the President of the United States and that we're just going to sit back and take it, they got another thing coming. So Trump is applying the pressure on every single front. And this is just, 2 weeks in. 617-266-6868. So let me just quickly refocus, and I want to ask all of you, what do you make now of Trump's proposal to take control and seize the Gaza Strip? Do you believe he's playing three-dimensional chess? Is this him now trying to get key countries to do their part by giving him an incentive? Either you do it or we do it. And trust me, you don't want us to do it. Or do you think he's serious? And is it a good idea for the United States? Should we be directly involved in the Middle East and make Gaza an American protectorate and an American territory? I say no way, hell no, but that's me. I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. Russ on the South Shore. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
Jeff. I'd like to talk about the Gaza situation if I can.
Yes, go ahead, Russ.
When I tuned in this morning, I wasn't sure if I called into a Raskin, Chuck Schumer and AOC rally or what. Everybody screaming about Trump. You sound like the rest of those people. Take a breath and think about this. Gaza and the Palestinians and Hamas never worked. It's never going to work. All he's doing is he's saying, we have to go forward and do something different. And he threw our hat in the ring. I don't know if we'll actually do it, but I think if the United States got involved like he's saying we may, if anybody can pull it off, he can. But I think what he realizes, what I believe, and what a lot of people think, and nobody will say it is, those people can't go back to business as usual in that area. They got to go somewhere else. They got to be absorbed by the adjoining countries that are full of people similar to them, although nobody wants them. We all know that. But we got to do something different. So good grief, if I hear another radio station or everybody screaming against Trump, now we're doing it. It's insane, I think.
Well, Russ, I'm just curious. What do you think of his proposal to take over Gaza? Do you think he's serious, or do you think he's just trolling to get other countries in the area, as you said, start taking in these Palestinians? We're going to have to redo that area, more economic development. This can't continue. The last 100 years have been an abject failure. So, guys, we're going to do something different. So if I got to give you a kick in the rear end, this is my kick in the rear end. So do you think he's just trying to push him, or do you think does he want to take over the Gaza Strip?
I don't think he does. I don't think any of us do. But he's stirring the pot over there, and it's got to be stirred. We have to go someplace else. We have to go to another thing, because a two-state solution has never worked. We find out that America has been funding both sides of that war. It's insane. We just never get anywhere. And by the way, if we did get involved over there under this president, I bet we could make it work. We couldn't make rebuilding the Middle East work under Bush. We'd never get anywhere under Biden or Obama. You got a guy here who will find out a way to do it. If we end up doing it, he'll find a way to do it. But I really think we're just going to head in a different direction. He's setting the stage we can't let all these people redevelop Gaza the way it was and have the tunnels and have the warfare and have us and other nations funding our enemies and Israel's enemies just for hundreds and thousands of more years. The line is drawn right now. He's helping draw it. We got to go to it in a different direction, a different solution, and it's not having Hamas and I believe a lot of Palestinians living in that area. So it's got to be something else. I believe it.
Russ, let me ask you this. Why do you think a two-state solution doesn't work? Why can't, you go to the Palestinians and you say, look, here's the West Bank or most of the West Bank, here's Gaza, and as Israel has offered multiple times in the past, even East Jerusalem. I know Ehud Barak did, I think even Bibi did at one point, saying, so, look, you got plenty of land, plenty of territory, we're even going to throw in East Jerusalem for you, so this is now a viable, coherent Palestinian state. It will be completely independent. You guys can finally govern yourselves. You will no longer be a territory under Israel. The so-called quote-unquote occupation ends. Why won't the Palestinians take that deal?
It's not in any of those people. I don't know enough to say that Hamas and and the Palestinians are any different, or how much overlap there is. But, I'm thinking of Kamala Harris and her Venn diagrams and right now with the circles. But look, you got this is, in my opinion, you've got a group of people on one side of that wall that say, we can get along with anybody in peace and harmony to all of our benefits and have a great life. On the other side, you got people who for generations and generations have been taught, it's been instilled in them, I hate those people, and my life's work is to kill them. They don't want to have the beaches, the hotels, the restaurants, the lifestyle that we appreciate and others, where they tried to do that with North Korea. Look what you could be over there. They don't want that stuff. They want to hate and kill their neighbor. And that's all they do all day. And they scheme and they build the tunnels and they harbor the terrorists. And I don't know if they're all one and the same, but boy, oh boy, it's a hotbed of violent hate, killing. It just never ends. You can't have a neighbor like that. You can't. You just can't have that.
No, Russ, I'm with you all the way. That's why I'm always very sympathetic to Israel. I don't know what else you would do differently. If anyone else was in Israel's shoes, would a neighbor like that committed to your destruction and annihilation? What else are you supposed to do? Russ, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Okay, we've made contact. Dr. Grace putting liberals in their place. Grace Voto, full disclosure, my wonderful better half. Grace, I know you were fired up last night when you saw Trump's press conference. So let me ask you right out of the gate. Trump says it may be a very good idea for the United States to take over Gaza. Good idea, bad idea, what say you?
Terrible idea, insane idea, crazy idea. Jeff, listen, we elected Trump to do something very radical. And you know what that is? Mind our own business. We haven't done this in decades. What happened on October 7th was a terrible tragedy. But make no mistake about it, this was an Israeli security failure. They failed. Internally, they know that. So they made a huge mess. Primarily, their border was not secure. Well, they were weak there. And that's why they had this incursion. So what does that mean? It's their problem, and they have to fix it. And the more we can say that very forcefully, the better everybody's situation will be. Look, we have now a president that is telling us that spending is out of control. And I have been applauding him every step of the way. What he has done since he swore that oath of office has been brilliant, has been mesmerizing. He's exposing all the waste of money. And at the same time, he's going to propose, this massive increase in spending on a wild project. This was a moment of utter lunacy.
What do you say to the argument, and I disagree with having Gaza be under an American protectorate or under American control, but I'm just curious, what do you say to the argument, this is Trump, art of the deal, leverage, three-dimensional chess, he wants Jordan, he wants Egypt, he wants Qatar, United Arab Emirates. These are wealthy countries, or some of them are. Look, you got to start taking in Palestinians. You got to help with the rebuilding. You got to start putting maximum pressure on Hamas and the Palestinians to sign a negotiated peace. In other words, if you don't take care of it, wink, wink, we will. In other words, putting pressure on them to do what needs to be done to finally end this war.
No, that's not the case, because this is not a well thought out strategy backed with detailed policy. This is Trump shooting from the hip. This is the part of Trump that all of us worry about. All of the supporters in private conversation will say, there's a side about him that gives me pause. And this is that side. And one thing that I say about him, he's got a productive, destructive personality. So he's productive, and everybody's really impressed. And then all of a sudden, there's that destructive side that kicks in. And that's the side that we have to protect ourselves against, and we have to protect him against himself. I mean, how many times have I even heard MAGA supporters say sometimes he's his own worst enemy? And this is what we're seeing. He has so much success so rapidly that he thinks he's invincible, that he thinks he can do absolutely anything, that he doesn't realize that there are very strong limits there. And that's a real danger to his presidency. And all of us saying, no, this is crazy and you're not going to do that, this is the best way that we show love for him today.
Grace, let me throw this log on the fire. As many people are saying, if there's any country that can clean up Gaza, rebuild it, clean out the tunnels, the debris, the explosives, bring in hotels, cafes, restaurants, casinos, resorts, really make it the Riviera of the Middle East. It's Donald Trump. It's America. What say you?
No, that's a total fantasy. There are some problems that are persistent, that are extremely difficult to solve, and wisdom is leave it alone and fix the problems in your own house. We're not in a position now in this country, wow, our border is secure, our prices are low, we feel like our government is being run very well. Okay, let's tackle the big international problems that we've never been able to resolve. No, we're not in that position. We're on the ropes. That's why he won the election. The common people need help. We've got crime in our streets. We've got illegals running wild. He's got so much to do at home. To take on this fantasy right now is a big disappointment, and it's a violation of his campaign promise.
No, I'm just. What do you mean a violation of his campaign? In other words, you're saying he never campaigned on we're going to control the Gaza Strip, correct?
He never did it. He campaigned very, very precisely on put America first. Reforming Gaza is not putting America first. That doesn't help one person who's the victim of crime, one person who's the victim of illegal immigrants running roughshod all over this country. It does nothing for this country right now. Long term, yes, but not right now. And we need help right now. That's why he was elected. Put America first. And he's been brilliant so far. But he's got to learn to stop shooting from the hip. It's a bad habit. Look, let's just be honest. The guy has some bad habits. That's what he does. Sometimes he does it on X, on social media. This time, he did it out loud, right in front of the world. And he needs to learn to stop doing that because he can have an extraordinarily amazing second term, but not if he proceeds like this. He's got to show a lot more self-discipline.
Grace, I'm just curious. What do you make of his proposal, not just about owning the Gaza Strip, but this has been almost as controversial around the world, is his plan to resettle or transfer the Palestinians who live in Gaza, about 2 million of them. And he says they can't live there anymore. It's a pile of rubble. It's a hellscape. It's a demolition site. There's practically no building left standing. These people are living almost like animals. He says it's a humanitarian disaster and catastrophe. We need now to relocate them to Egypt, to Jordan, to Saudi Arabia, maybe even on uninhabited islands in Indonesia. And we can build them beautiful homes, neighborhoods, schools, condos, communities where they can live in dignity, and then let the world take over Gaza. And with the Palestinians gone, it'll become thriving, peaceful, and prosperous. In other words, it's time to ship the Palestinians in Gaza out. Agree, disagree?
Jeff, listen, I'm so sick of this. He's not president of Israel. He's not president of Gaza. He's not leader of the Palestinians. He is president of the United States of America, and I want his focus to be squarely on Americans. That's why we voted for him. And this is the kind of globalism that we have been rejecting, and I reject it if it comes out of the mouth of Republicans that are part of the establishment or if it comes out of him. That's called globalism. That's what we can't stand. That's what we don't want him to do. And let me say something, Jeff, regarding Israel. I was appalled at this tragedy that occurred October 7th, but that was a security failure by their state. In addition, I was one of the very few people that was saying, I think it's a big mistake now for Israel to go in there with a full head of steam without thinking through what they're doing. What I wanted them to do was calm down. You have every right to be outraged, and the world is on your side. But What you should do is what you did after Munich, very targeted assassinations, and dismantle Hamas slowly, piece by piece. But they now created an even bigger mess. And guess what? It's their mess. The more we start saying that, the more people will clean up their own mess. You know, it's a little bit like a mom who keeps cleaning up the teenager's room. I think I know something about that. The more I do it, the more the mess remains. When I say I'm not doing it, you're doing it, somehow that mess gets taken care of. And that's what he needs to do. He could have just pocketed the win. Netanyahu had said that he was essential in getting some of those hostages released. He could have just stood there, pocket the win, and shut up.
Grace, do you think Trump is going to do a U-turn? We got about a minute left. Is Trump going to backtrack? Is he going to do a U-turn? Or do you think he's going to continue to try to push this idea?
You know, Jeff, I don't know. I think that we have to let it be known what we want, and we have to remind him why he's there. And this is a big problem with every leader that we elect. We elect them based on a set of principles, and then once is the power going to his head? I have to ask this question out loud right now this morning, and we have to tell him no. That's all. I don't care what he thinks he's going to do. This is not why we elected him, and MAGA has to be true to its own principles. I won't stand by and let MAGA betray itself, which is what we're doing right now if we don't resist this.
Grace, do you think this has damaged him politically? Has he lost some political capital over this?
I think that if he recalibrates very quickly, it'll be fine, because nobody has done what he has done so dramatically since his election. He's been extraordinary, and we've all been saying that. So it's time for him to just back out of this, and we will all, you know what I tell my kids sometimes when they make a big mistake, let's just do a big mindy race. It never happened. Mindy race. So there's still time.
There's still time. Okay, so basically he can walk it back or just forget about it, and the damage will be either nil or minimal. Interesting. Grace, thank you as always. We'll talk to you at same time, same place next week. Grace says Trump blew it. Do you agree? 9:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, lot of reaction to Grace's hit, both pro and con. This is from 603. Jeff, I normally agree with your wife on everything, but today, man, is she off base. Trump, a globalist? Trump betraying MAGA? What did she put in her coffee this morning? I don't know, 603. That's a very good question. Jeez, you would think he invaded Gaza. By the way, Grace was so passionate and opposed to it. Okay, this is from Marianne on Messenger, who liked Grace's hit. And Marianne is a big Trump supporter, by the way. MAGA conservative all the way. Good morning, Jeff. I could not articulate exactly what I wanted to say here, but Grace did it eloquently. It's rare that I disagree with you, but I am in total agreement with Grace here. Sometimes Trump's ego does get ahead of him, and she's right. We reject globalism, and that's what this is. Thank you, Grace, for putting into words what I was trying to and could not. So, let me ask all of you. Grace says this idea of controlling the Gaza Strip, the United States having long-term control, and trying to resettle Palestinians across the region to other countries, to start building homes for them, communities, schools. This is not what MAGA voted for. These are the actions of globalism. Not that Trump is a globalist, but that this is a globalist initiative. And that if Biden had suggested something like this, we would reject it out of hand. And Grace's point is, we elected Trump to take care of our country, our needs, our business. Stay out of the Middle East. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Lorenzo in South Boston. Thanks for holding, Lorenzo, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Lorenzo.
I disagree with your wife. With all due respect, I know she doesn't like Trump. I know any chance she gets, she bashes Trump. But hey, she is a smart lady. Yeah, you married up too, but I totally disagree with her.
Lorenzo, can I ask you this? No, because just between you and me, among two guys here, why do you think Grace has this edge against Trump that she likes to stick it to him? She loves to stick it to him. And I know she was very big on DeSantis and, her guy lost. Is it sour grapes on DeSantis? Or is it that she's still upset that he's on his third wife? Like, that's the thing. There's an emotional animus towards Trump that I notice from Grace pops up from time to time. And honestly, I can't relate to it. I don't understand it. What's your theory, Lorenzo? Because I never cheated on her. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, Trump cheated on his, he cheated on his first couple wives. But I never cheated on you, honey. So it's not like you were married to Trump. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like if you were married to him, okay, I get it, you're bitter. But I never cheated on her. So why does it bother her so much that Trump is on his third wife, 2 divorces, and apparently cheated on his first 2 wives? Or maybe even the third wife. Lorenzo, what say you, my friend?
Well, Jeff, it's probably the DeSantis thing, but if DeSantis said that, you got to ask him when you got home. You got to say, babe, hey, what if DeSantis said that? See a reaction. But you guys are a great couple. I get a kick out of it too. It reminds me of Burns and Allen. Remember the old TV show?
Yes.
But that being said, what Trump, he said last night in that speech. He said, this is what he'd like to do because it's not working. In the definition of insanity, right? We know the old expression, doing the same thing over and over again. But he also said, Jeff, that this is not going to work. And you said it. I think you said it in a couple, things you were talking about today. Is if you don't change the education, he said that if you don't change the mindset of the youth, it's not going to work. So going in there doing anything, that has to be on the table, or it's not going to work because they teach these kids at 3-4 years old to be like that. That's what I heard out of Trump. Jeff.
Oh no, you're dead on. But, and you got to see the videos. What they teach the kids in school, it's disgusting. 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old. It's vile. It really is. No, look, Lorenzo, and you're right. And the other thing is, Trump was clear. He goes, look, I'm not going to invade Gaza. And everyone's going, oh, American imperialism. Oh my God. He said, look, it's a proposal. I'm telling you that if we ran it, I think we would run it very well. And maybe we need to think about resettling Palestinians because what they've been doing the last 100 years isn't working. It's a recommendation. It's a proposal. It's an idea. I'm not calling in the Marines. I'm not going to declare war on Gaza and send in, 100,000 American troops and annex the damn thing. He's just saying, look, I'm looking at what's worked, and so far nothing has worked. So I'm thinking maybe we try a different tack. Now, look, I think we should stay out of the Middle East. I don't think we should take control of Gaza. You know my position. But this, overreaction where they're like, oh my God, he's going to invade. It's a proposal at a press conference with Bibi Netanyahu. Okay, everybody, take a drink. It's okay. I disagree with it. But I mean, come on. Let's not exaggerate here. 9:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Many of you are texting the Kuhner Man, emailing the Kuhner Man, messaging the Kuhner Man. Jeff, what, have you lost your mind? Taking on Grace like this? So I just want to say, for the record, if something happens to me tonight, if I mysteriously, pass away or what happened? He just died of a heart attack in the middle of the night? It wasn't an accident, okay? I want everybody, it wasn't an accident. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask all of you. Grace says Trump jumped the shark, essentially. That he should have kept this to himself, that he's getting a little bit too big for his britches now after a very successful first couple of weeks, and that this is not a good proposal, and that she believes that in the end, it won't hurt him if he backs away, but if he continues to push for this Gaza initiative, it's going to damage his presidency and consume valuable political capital. Do you agree? 617-266-6868 is the number. Is Trump making a globalist proposal when he's pushing for the U.S. to take over Gaza and to resettle the Palestinians in other countries? 617-266-6868 is the number. Sonny in Boston. Thanks for holding, Sonny, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure, Sonny.
Jeff, it's going to take 10 years to clean the debris, the explosives, and to clean up the septic system, the water. It's all contaminated. I believe that Israel should stay there for the entire post-war reconstruction of the Gaza Strip and get financial help maybe from the Muslim countries, the United Nations. But first, they have to finish the job with Hamas. They have to capture all their leaders, put them on trial just like they did during the Nuremberg trials. We know that two-state solution doesn't work. After it's all reconstructed, they have to come up with maybe return it to the Palestinians. But this is going to take 10 or 12 years to do. It's not something that, the United States, we have to rebuild California. We don't need to be rebuilding the Gaza Strip.
I love that phrase. I think to me, it's the checkmate argument. We need to be, rebuilding California or Hawaii, Lahaina, I could go on, or East Palestine in Ohio, not Palestine in the Middle East, but East Palestine in Ohio. We've got so much quote unquote nation building to do here at home. I agree with you, Sonny. Sonny, I'm just curious, because this is really the issue that Trump is driving to the fore. What he's really saying is that the Palestinians have failed at self-governance. The Palestinians ultimately can't run their own affairs. It's been 100 years of failure, hatred, death, destruction. And maybe it's time to ship them out. He said, yeah, some Palestinians can stay, those that really want to prosper and contribute. But for the others, let's take care of them, put them in homes, put them in nice communities. And even if it's not the United States, the UN, a group of Western powers, whatever it may be, but turn the Gaza Strip into something where you can economically develop, prosper, but that if you keep the Palestinians there, in the end, they're just going to want to attack and commit atrocities and declare holy war, and it's going to be the same vicious cycle over and over and over again. Does Trump have a point?
He has a point, Jeff. I was there 50 years ago for the Six-Day War in the Sixth Fleet, and the same thing is happening today. We need to have changes in the Gaza Strip. I think Trump sees 25 miles of waterfront property, and he wants to rebuild it all. But let the Europeans do it, and let Israel stay there for the entire
I like that.
time.
Sonny, I love everything you said, and in particular, let Israel run it for 10, 15 years, whatever it takes. I'm so with you. That's what I mean. I don't mean this in a nasty or negative way against Israel when I say it's their problem, let me deal with it. What I'm just saying is, look, we have a problem with Mexico and Canada. Well, it's not fair to ask other countries, Germany that. Like the Germans would say, hey, guys, Mexico, that's your problem, man. Like, that's your border. That's your neck of the... That's your neck of the woods. We got our own problems. So, that's what I say to Israel. No disrespect, really. But Gaza's literally on your border. And as Grace said, Hamas viciously attacked Israel, committed grotesque war crimes, taking advantage of Israel's lax security. And it was an internal security failure that allowed Hamas to run wild and rampage and heinously kill all those men, women, and children. To me, let Israel deal with Gaza. Nobody knows the area better. Nobody understands the Palestinians better. Frankly, they're going to do a phenomenal job rebuilding Gaza. The Israelis are great builders. So I'm thinking, this is Israel's issue. Let Israel deal with it. Sonny, I'm with you all the way, my friend. Sonny, thank you very much for that call. In other words, we don't have to get involved in everything all the time. Especially when we have so many of our own problems here at home. Call me crazy. 617-266-6868 is the number. Peter in Worcester. Thanks for holding, Peter, and welcome.
Hi.
Hi, Peter.
Your wife is 100% right.
Go ahead, Peter.
All right.
Why? I'm just curious. Why do you think she's right? Go ahead, Peter.
Well, because we have right now. There's two things that worry me every day. I'm retired. I have two daughters that are and I'm looking at America, where we're going, and everything like that. Absolutely not. We don't need to get involved anymore in the Middle East. What worries me about every day is we need to contain China. Remember Joe Biden saying China's going to eat our lunch? All right, they're going to eat our lunch. And you know what really worries me? Is that the debt ceiling and everything. If there's debt in this country, we got to knock it down. That should be Trump's priority. That should be number one priority, is to reduce the debt. So the kids that in the future, my kids, their kids, and the kids down the road are not going to inherit the nightmare that we've made them. And the other thing that really worries me, Jeff, is that China is all gun-ho with getting the dollar taken down as the peg currency of the world. If the dollar is worth nothing, then we're worth nothing. And I believe that should be Trump's priority. China is number one. China is basically doing everything globally to undermine the United States of America. We need a policy like George Kennan with containment, like they did with the Soviet Union. All right, and I don't know what to say. I don't even know where he was thinking or what he was thinking when he said this. I'm fully behind Trump, 100%. But he got over his skis on this one, and I don't know. I think Grace is right. I really do.
Peter, on China, I agree 1,000%. On the debt, I agree 1,000%. On every point that you've made, I agree 1,000%. Let me throw one more quick point and see if you agree or disagree. The other thing that kind of shocked me a little bit about his comment was, I'm like, you got this war raging between Russia and Ukraine. And let me just play a cut. Do we have time? Okay, very quickly. Peter, I want to get your reaction. This is Zelensky, okay? The strongman of Ukraine. Listen now to him with Piers Morgan. Roll cut 11, Mike.
Which support package, which missiles, will we be given nuclear weapons? Then let them give us nuclear weapons. Will they give us the missiles in the quantities that we can stop Russia? And I'm not sure of that, but I think it would help. Otherwise, what missiles can stop Russia's nuclear missiles? That is a rhetoric question. So let's do it the following way. Give us back nuclear arms, give us missile systems. Partners, help us finance the 1 million army, move your contingent on the parts of our state where we want the stability of the situation so that the people have tranquility.
Peter, he wants nuclear missiles. He wants us to give him nuclear weapons. As you know, Russia has the most nuclear weapons in the world. To me, I'm looking at this and I'm like, We could be heading towards World War III. This war has to end. Now, a nuclear war, that's in our national interest. Yes? No? 9:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let's go to Moses in Long Island. Thanks for holding, Moses, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Good morning, brother.
Moses, I haven't heard from you in a while. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank the Lord. How are you, Jeff?
Can't complain, Moses. Well, I mean, I got a flu, which is really great. I got it from Ava, who gave it to me. So I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. But outside of that, Moses, I can't complain. Buddy, what do you make of this?
You know what, Jeff? I got to say, first and foremost, I agree wholeheartedly with everything Grace said. And if you recall, I'm as big a Trump fan as there could be.
Yes.
But, this is the MAGA movement. It's non-globalism. It's America first. And the whole idea of him, reining in the USAID and then to contemplate spending all this, because it'll be a ton of money over there. I think it's just a bad idea. I think she explained it perfectly well where Trump, he gets on fire, and then instead of sitting back and letting the Democrats drown themselves, he ends up doing something like this. But that being said, the point I think that could be best made, and tying it in with the whole, Ukraine thing, is especially for these warhawk Republicans. How do you explain us being mad at Russia and going to war over there for dealing with things that are right next to their doorstep, and us coming from all the way over here to go deal with Israel? And listen, I love Israel, but Israel is probably the number one Israel first country there is. I'm saying they care about their country over everything. So let them deal with that. And if they need a little bit of help, okay, I understand that. But to sit there and try to take over a situation, I don't like it. I don't like the whole news cycle. I have a field day with it. I think he's on fire right now, and he needs to just keep it rolling. Where this interventionist thing is what's gotten us right where we are. And there's, like she said, there's just so much to deal with. And by the way, that was a beautifully put when you said you should be worried about East Palestine in Ohio, not Palestine in Israel. That's how I feel about it. It makes absolute no sense, and the only bad things can come from it. Now, the idea is a novel one, but like you said, it's going to be a minimum 10-year plan, and these things are hit or miss. I mean, Iraq, was that really worth it? Possibly, I guess. They seem like they're doing okay right now, but most of the time, what happens in Afghanistan, what happened in all these other countries that we try to go out and help out, when the reality is they got to do it the way our forefathers did it. You want your freedom, you got to do it yourself, because nobody's going to do it for you.
Amen. Moses, honestly, I could not have said it better myself. Drop the mic. Moses, you're back. Please, Moses, don't be a stranger now. You got to call again, okay? Thank you, Moses. God bless you, my friend. No, he's completely right. Look, we got to deal with the drug cartels who are, we're outsourcing our manufacturing, our jobs. Now, look, God bless Trump. He's dealing with that, of course. But we've got mass deportations of violent criminal illegals. We've got so much on our plate. We've got so many Americans that are in desperate need. We need to take on Gaza like we need a hole in the head. And, Trump, I know he's working behind the scenes with Putin and Zelensky to try to end that war, but, what's more important to the national interest of the United States? That's why I played the Zelensky cut. This guy's talking nuclear weapons. He wants us to give him nukes. So can you imagine if Russia and Ukraine escalates to a nuclear war? So, Israel is Israel first, as they should be. Let them deal with the Palestinians. They seem to be doing a phenomenal job, frankly. So I'm like, guys, have at it. But we got other fires to put out. So I'm with you all the way, Moses. Heidi in Northborough. Thanks for holding, Heidi, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Good. How are you, Heidi? Heidi, I don't mean to rush you. We have less than 2 minutes. Go.
I think Trump needs to slow his roll a little bit when it comes to foreign affairs. I think a lot of people here are saying, they're not seeing any changes in the prices and things are still going up, and they're blaming him even though he's only been in office for 2 weeks. And I think maybe he needs to start to concentrate on that and win some of the confidence of the people who voted for him, and then maybe start that other stuff. Like continue with the deportations, the things, and get the prices of oil and regular groceries down, and then people will be more open to him doing some of this other stuff.
Heidi, point blank, do you want America to get involved in Gaza? Do you think we should control it or manage it or run it? Or do you think ultimately it's none of our business?
Right now, I think we have other more important things, so it's none of our business. Down the road, that may change. But today, right now, we have to take care of our own and take care of our country.
Heidi, let me ask you this, because a lot of people on Messenger are saying the same thing. They're saying Trump maybe jumped the shark on this. Is he getting a little bit too cocky, too confident? He's got a lot of wins, very impressive. He's racking them up one after another. Is he starting to bite off more than he can chew? It's a yes or no answer, Mike. You can't let the poor woman answer yes or no. Well, you love the power, huh, Mike? I can see that. All right, I got to go. Bye-bye.